and welcome to another episode of AC Talking Bowls Extra. I need this extra one to get all the comments in. Thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you've got that Friday feeling. Weekend round the corner. One or two of us might be just going out sending a few bowls. Just looking forward to getting back to some normality. But first of all, I thought I'll do the comments from the extra show and fill in a bit of your time and entertain you a little bit. First of all, did you notice the little sneaky cheeky video I put on yesterday? I'm not sure if I've put it on before, if I've seen it on somebody else's channel. I was going through one of my DVD recorders and on its hard drive there was that. It's about half an hour long. Gary Wallace and Chris MacDonald, both top players of that particular era, and I'm not sure whether it was 89, 90 or 91. But anyway, it's somewhere around there. Just something to keep you occupied whilst with not a lot else to do. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button, and if you're not already a bowls buddy and a member of this fantastic community of ours, please hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free of charge, and don't forget to click that notification bell for notifications of new content on the channel, which is slowly creeping back up again, so that's pretty good. Before I get into the comments, I mentioned about the Waterloo draw, and I was right. Thing on Facebook today, the draw will take place on Sunday the 6th of December at 9:30 AM. Who gets up at 9:30 AM on a Sunday? To be streamed live on Facebook. Subject to technology, Ricky and I, Gary Ellis, will be on it, and will also provide an update on the progress with the Waterloo. So that's fantastic. There's now 388 members of the 50-50 draw, which is a fantastic amount. And because of that, they're actually paying out over 50% prize money this month, and there will be 12 prizes in total. The first prize of which will be £700, which would be very nice just before Christmas. And I've got my tree up, by the way. How exciting! Don't normally bother. So there you go. So that's the Waterloo draw. And all I'm going to do is jump straight into the comments from last Friday's AC's Talking Bowls Extra!
Comment Corner.
Okay, so once again, my pal Paul Hargreaves. If you remember, I had a little bit of a, not a dig, a bit of a, I asked him if he was at the Jack Cox Waterloo and Talbot winning performances in 1925. And he's responded. Thanks, AC. I had wondered if Gary Ellis might have emulated Jack Cox's marvellous double. I didn't see the double as you allege. I saw the Waterloo leg, but had to catch my stagecoach home before the Talbot final. Very good, Paul, very good. Like it a lot, like it a lot. Ian Harris is next. Very strange username that I'm not going to go into. Great show as usual. Thanks, Ian, much appreciated. The best left-hander you have come across? Thinking Joe Bradbury, Sir Robert Hitchin, Steve Copeland, etc. Well, the three you've mentioned are certainly the three that automatically spring to mind. There's another couple from Yorkshire. Well, one's in Wales now, but Chris Slater, who I rate as a very, very good player, exceptional striker, really, really great competitor. You know you're in a game with him. Of course, John Bailey, amazing left-hander, beautiful delivery, hardly looks like he's sending them. And there's a lot of left-handers that look like that. I think that's why they stand out so much, apart from the fact that they're left-handed, but they also have such lovely deliveries. And a guy who's around at the minute playing at the Griffin, who I think could be a really top player if he put his mind to it and wanted to be, Gary Siswick. I think he's got a lovely delivery, very good attitude to the game, and he could be as good as anyone if he wanted to be. But I think of the three you've mentioned, I mean, Joe Bradbury's been around for years and won a lot of stuff, and Steve Copeland, great player in his day, great player. Never really won any of the majors. Out of the three you mentioned, I've got to go for Sir Robert of Hitchin. An amazing bowler for a long time, a long number of years. Again, maybe missed out on the very top prizes, such as All England, Waterloo, that sort of thing. But I think he's won virtually everything else in the game. And there was something about Bob. I mean, I the first time I beat him was in the final of the Waterloo. Before that, he'd beat me 21-1, 21-3, 21 not so many. And I just could never pick the pace of the green up from him. He'd be going right in the full corners and I just couldn't get it. And it was because his delivery was so easy. And most of his power comes from the backswing. He takes that arm back quite lazily really, but brings it through. And he just reached to the moon and back. Best left-handed player, you've got to say John Bailey though, I guess. I mean, how could you not? He's won Champion of Champions. I would say there's not a lot between Sir Bob and John really. Either of those two I could happily argue for or against. Very little between them. John possibly just edges it with his Waterloo win. Has he won the Champ of Champs twice? Possibly. Where do we put Greg Smith in this though? Is it too early to say Greg's one of the greats? I don't know. It's a great debate. Best left-hander ever. You could argue. You could be arguing all day, couldn't you? Greg Smith. Out of the three you've mentioned, I'd say Bob Hitchin. John Bailey's got to be up there, and Greg Smith. So those three for me. Greg Smith. New boy. I keep saying new boy. He's been around maybe 9 years now, 8 years, something like that. I'm trying to think. Maybe I'm overestimating that. He feels as though he's been around a long time, but he's won an awful lot in that period. Those three stand out for me, and I'm sure that there'll be other left-handed players who you think could be up there, but those three I think are arguably, you could argue for all day and night. So I'm going to leave it at that because I'll just take all my time up doing that. Otherwise, Paul Hargreaves again. Remember I was talking about families. Don't envy the undertaking of looking at famous bowling families, AC. There are so many, but surely the Rothwells, father and son, must be mentioned. Both won the Waterloo and both won the Talbot. Perhaps the most remarkable statistic in bowls, they won the Waterloo 7 years apart and the Talbot 70 years apart. Yes, James Rothwell, and I can't remember the other guy, obviously called Rothwell, from Rochdale I believe. I haven't actually done any research on the Bowles families yet. James Rothwell, yeah, good shout. Somebody else who I forgot last week on the when I was talking about the Copelands, of course, Jonathan Copeland, Dave's son, who, well, he was flying at bowls, winning lots of things, winning junior Waterloos and coming through and winning senior events, and then of course education gets in the way, and I'm not 100% sure where he is now. He used to be very good friends with Jonathan. Is it Singapore or Hong Kong or somewhere like that? I know he's abroad, they don't play proper bowls, but wherever it is. Gary Nicholson, talking about bowling families, you got 2 lots of Budettes. Oh, that's a horrible thought. From Coventry, Rich Junior and Rich Minor, and Mark and another. I'm Mark and another Budette family, Dave and Lee, all former and current county bowlers for North Midlands. Absolutely, yeah. The Budettes, 2 families. I always thought they were related. I'm sure they are in some way, but you know, I thought they were closely related. I don't know. I get myself in trouble when I think about the Budettes, because there's that many of them. I get them all confused. Even Mark, who I speak to quite regularly. Now then, Mike Duckworth, a bit of a blast from the past. Mike Duckworth used to be involved with bowls back in the 90s, and he used to be involved with the Golden Ball at Pilling when they had a big competition there. And he's left me a very nice essay which I will read out. Hi Andy, can I say how much I've been enjoying your pieces each week? Yes Mike, you can. Even though I haven't played since 2004, I still like to dip into what's going on in the game. Obviously over the years everything has moved on, but yet everything has stayed the same. All the same issues around as they were when I launched Along the Edges. You remember that magazine? I think I've got a few copies somewhere. And tried to get more people interested in the game, more sponsorship coming in and more coverage in newspapers. Following on from Tommy Hayes' comment about newspaper coverage of bowls, a small select few of us were keen enough to write weekly reports for regional pages. I did 3 pages each week for the Morecambe Visitor. Terry Connell did a page in the Lancashire Evening Telegraph. Steve McHugh did the Manchester Evening News. Bob Spinks did Leeds. Mike Wakelam did Warwick and Worcester. And Arthur Land did the column in the Telegraph. And there was someone whose name I forget did the Shropshire Star. So lots of them, lots of bowling coverage there, but alas not now. All for not many pennies. All of us having to search out results, pictures and stories for ourselves because comp organisers rarely did publicity before or after events. To get information about the game you had to drag it out of people, and at the end of the day 99% of bowlers aren't interested in anything but their own weekly game. Very sad, that's definitely true. Still with Tommy, I remember talking to him at Leighton Institute at Blackpool in 2002 or 2003, not sure which, but we were sat greenside and he was telling me he won it in 1983, £3 entry, £3,000 for the winner, and I think he said there was 1,024 entries. That day we paid £20, the prize money was £800 and it was 128 entries and it wasn't full. Even at that time the game had almost gone. Paul Strutt was also mentioned, great player in the 90s, played him and Ken in a pairs at Haslingden Bowling Club in 96 and he was talking about packing it up then because the money wasn't worth playing for, and I don't think he played much longer after that. No, that's absolutely right, only a few years. I tried to launch a Competition Players Association with some good sponsors and a good concept for bringing more publicity and money into the game, with a dedicated website, player profiles, a lot of good opportunities to grow the game, but I couldn't get the support of the top players at the time. It's still the same story, no one wants to put money up, time in, but they expect others to run comps and leagues, maintain greens, etc, etc. Because the game has no visibility these days, the BCGBA is obviously a non-entity when it comes to driving the game forwards. Hey, that's Mike, not me saying that. It's a shame because it's a great sport and it needs more people like yourself to keep it going. However, I feel you're in a very small minority and it's hard to see a future where the game can only continue to shrink. Keep up interesting stuff from the past please, because that's where the game's best days are. And there's not a lot of that I can disagree with. I know I've had situations where I've struggled to get hold of information after the event, and I know speaking to other, I'll call them journalists even though it gets me into trouble, I know speaking to 1 or 2 journalists and they're the same. The organisers are normally knocking down the door to try and get publicity for their event, to get it covered, get photographers down there, whatever, but then after the event it all goes quiet. They don't want to give the details about who's won and what, so it becomes a hassle. So yeah, Mike, thanks for your comment, and I can't disagree with any of that really. Sorry for the pinging. Dave Parker, again talking about families and bowls. More Jews in Yorkshire along with Josh and Sophie Brown, both county players. Yes, absolutely. And of course there's Chris, Josh, and there's a young one coming through now. He's only about 5, isn't he? I can't remember his name for the life of me. My brain, I don't know. Anyway, ignore that. I had the pleasure of meeting Alf McDermott, whose son David has also won the Merseyside Merit, and I believe the next generation, Jordan McDermott, none too shabby either, winning big comps locally. Yeah, there's 3 of the McDermotts. Yeah, so that's good to see. And of course that's the way bowls has been for a long time now, where sons of and daughters have followed suit and gone into bowling. It's very rare you see anyone that isn't really got a family, a relative who's a bowler. So yeah. Alan Lancaster, this follows on from the one that I read out on Wednesday, but I'm going to read it again. Great show, good entertainment and interesting thoughts. You might say, oh no, but in my opinion we need a small group association that sits above the BCGBA and are there to promote the game by whatever means. It needs to export the game outside of the north-northwest, including how to get the game overseas. I'm sure you get the principle. Absolutely, yeah, and I mentioned it on Wednesday, and there's no reason at all why we can't play crown green bowls on a flat green in South Africa, in New Zealand, in Canada, in Australia, in Hong Kong, wherever there's a 40-yard square bit of grass, we can play our game. In fact, arguably, it's easier to do that, to play our game abroad, than it is flat green. But why would we? Why would we? I know when people talk about darts and how they've gone about things, I've always said, well, it's a bit more difficult for crown green bowls. We can't just go to the alley pally and put a bowling green in. You know, it's easy to put a dart board up and what you need. A bit more difficult with a bowling green. But there's nothing stopping you playing on indoor rinks. Alright, it might get a bit samey, you've got big swinging pegs, whatever, but it's the principle of the game is still there. And on outdoor flat greens, they're not that flat. They're flatter, but they're not perfectly flat, so you'd still get runs and channels and gullies and just more subtle ones. And I think it would be a very, very good game. An idea to, you know, have an exhibition match. Like I said, group a team of 8, team of 6, whatever. Go, showcase the sport, take them on. Play them at their home game, then play them at crown green and show them what a proper game is. Possibly, maybe, who knows. Brian Wilson, thanks for the extra comments this week, really interesting to hear. I've joined Bourneville in Birmingham this season, and while in lockdown we've acquired a second green, turning a flat green into a crown green. Thanks again, keep up the good work. Point proven. You don't need a crown green with a 12-inch hump in the middle to play crown green bowls on. It just makes it a bit more interesting. Now then, this is the last comment, and it's quite long, but I'm going to read it again. And it's from a guy called Mark Adshead. Adshead? Have the BCGBA thought of a media levy on club player registrations to create a fund for live streaming long and short highlight packages for Sky Sports, for example, along with their own YouTube channel, like the World Indoor Bowls Tour does? For example, if there are 80,000 player club registrations at £5 each, that creates a pool of £400,000 a season. I have no idea of what it costs to stream and edit events. If the events come at no cost to a media outlet, I'm sure they will be more interested in showing it. Make the game more colourful like golf and darts. Imagine county games or a big comp with 32 Peter Wrights or John Daly's playing. Would turn heads as people walk past. I'm sure some wouldn't like it, but it's 2020, not 1980. Regarding greens, I play at Hillsborough Park in Sheffield. We still have 3 greens, although one is now used exclusively by Sheffield Croquet Club. Who knew Sheffield was posh enough to have a croquet club? That's what I'm taking away from that. Mark. A wonderful idea. There's only one stumbling block. Getting bowlers to pay money. Sorry, there's another stumbling block. Getting the British Crown Green to ask bowlers to pay money. Getting bowlers to pay money is like getting me to buy a round of drinks for my teammates at Thongsbridge. It doesn't happen. It isn't that long since proposals for £1 a year registration were turned down at the AGM, and I can see the reticence. One of my very early videos was about this. Why would you want British Crown Green to be given a big pot of money every year when they seemingly don't do anything with the money they've got. That's the argument. Why would an average club bowler that plays once a week want to stump up £5 so Gary Ellis can play on TV? That's not my words, that's the argument put forward by your average club bowler. And it's a problem that I don't think we will ever resolve. And if bowls ever wants to become a television sport or be successful at a, I was going to say professional level, but I can never see that happen, but at a competition level, it would need some sort of breakaway, an association that's just interested in the competition side of bowls, and maybe that would be a better way for bowls to progress. You have British Crown Green for the social side of bowls, for playing league games, for that side of things, and you have another bespoke association that looks after the competition side of things and sells that product to television, whatever. That I could see working. That I think would interest a lot of the competition bowlers. And to be fair, there isn't that many of them have left. I mean, you go back into the 80s and 90s, you could probably say there were 500 or so, maybe more, real competition bowlers who were always trying to get in competitions and outplaying. And you know that because, you know, there were 256 entry competitions that were full, so there was obviously more than that. Now 128 entries can be a struggle. Let's say there's 200 competition bowlers who are serious about taking the game and making it into something. Would that be enough to start an association? Yeah, I think so. If we were all willing to put in a reasonable amount of money and all buy in as shareholders or whatever, £100 each gives you something to start with, gives you a nice pot, and I think that's the only way forward. British Crown Green will never ever ask the bowlers for a levy specifically for media, for live events, for anything like that. It just will never happen. That I don't think that's where they see their remit as being. So that's the only way I can see us getting forward, and that's having a standalone bespoke association for the competition side. And I'm going to leave it there, and I want to say to you, have a really good weekend. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, hit the like button. Stay safe over the weekend. Who knows, that vaccine might be just around the corner. Stay safe whatever you do. I'll see you next week. Hope to see you then. Bye for now.